there'd be times when I like worked retail, like for a family store, and I'd upcharge white people, like because they look like they have more money. Wouldn't that be considered like racist?
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. That would be an unkindness and a very individual thing. When we're talking about racism, that's kind of funny, actually. But when we're talking about racism, we're looking very specifically. Ism is a system. It is a system of oppression when we look at what racism is. And so we know that with the foundation of the United States being on the enslavement of the Black community and the harm done to the indigenous community, we understand that that was the foundation of what the United States was. And so built upon that foundation are the systems that are in place currently today. And so those systems themselves are what is used to oppress the Black community, to oppress the indigenous community. We can give you examples of what that looks like today with the laws that are in place for both communities. And we can have that conversation to show what that looks like. But that's what we're talking about when we're saying racism.
Okay, so what was what example did I just give? Like that's not racism. What would that be
No.
considered?
An unkindness. You are just being unkind to
Unkindness?
them. Yeah, an unkindness. You're probably being
But
mean to them. That kind of
but
sucks.
wouldn't that be me looking at someone differently because of their race?
No, no.
But I specifically did it to like white people though. That's the
Okay,
thing.
absolutely. Absolutely. You
No
can,
one can be racist to white people. It's a hierarchy.
yeah.
So there's no one above them to oppress
It
them.
didn't, you didn't take away from them anything that they weren't willing to pay. They were willing to pay. They were willing to pay that amount. They had no problem with it. They did it and left. It oppressed them in absolutely no way. It harmed their life in absolutely no way.
What's the tier list? Like the hierarchy tier list.
What do you mean?
You'd have to get it out of it. You can go find it in a sociology textbook. If you go to
Oh,
open,
okay.
grab a pen, and I'll give you the website. You can go to Open Stacks, like the library stacks, but only it's spelled STAX. So openstacks.org. They have free textbooks there that you can download. Every textbook is going to have the hierarchy kind of a little bit different, but not. It's all just kind of in how it's made for students to be able to memorize, I guess. But yeah, you'll be able to find several different types of basic hierarchies.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll look into it.
Yeah, do. And if you, I don't know if you sound young, so I'm going to assume you're college age or going to college, or, if you have
Yeah, you can
access,
say that.
take a sociology class, definitely take a diversity class. They're free online. If you don't want to take them at your local college, you can find them. If you have questions, let us know. I'm always available for anybody who is really, truly wanting to learn.
Yep. And actually, if you look in my link tree in my bio, there are actually quite a few sources. You're going to find all of the sources. There are other spaces that I do debates in, or I do conversations on different topics in. So you're going to see a lot of that. But the section that you can look for is the Deconstructing Racism section. It's going to have a lot of educational information for you. It actually has links to classes that you can take to learn more about this stuff, to book lists for things that you can read and engage with to understand more as well. There's also the Harvard Implicit Bias Test, which is going to help you see if you have any internalized biases. You can take that in the comfort of your own home. You don't have to do it on a panel or live on TikTok for everybody to see. But it compares things like gay people and straight people, Black people and white people, transgender people and cisgender people. So you have those types of categories to see if you have, any type of internal biases. So Christian, I saw oh no, that was not you. That was you. Yeah. That's for you to determine if your heritage, if any of that is Mexican, that's for you. Nobody is up here to tell you what you are or aren't. That's something for you to figure out.
But I'd fall into the Caucasian or the white.
Potentially, there are different things. It's kind of like, if you look at it this way, when we talk about white, I'm white, but when we look at what my heritage is, I am Irish and Scottish. So that's where I come from. So I am both of those things, but I am also white. So you could be, what, Hispanic or Latino, I believe you said. Those things stand separate from the 5 racial categories that we're talking about. And so
Why?
you may be all of those things, but the way the United States looks at you is based on those 5 categories that Grammy gave you.
But when I would like sign my FAFSA or like any government document, it'd be like Hispanic slash Latino, Caucasian,
So
white, Pacific
absolutely,
Islander.
yes. So you're looking at ethnicity when you go down because there's race and then there's a ethnicity. And so under the race category, you can do white, but it also asks you, is it what white? How is it how is the verbiage white, not Hispanic or something along those lines, or white Hispanic? There are some different pieces within that, but when you look at what that overarching word is, it's going to be white at the front of that if that's the box you choose.
No, it'd be white, and then it'd be Hispanic slash Latino, black.
Actually, what it is the first thing they ask is if you're hang on.
No problem. Give us just a second. We got a
Oh my God, this dog, I can't stand it. The first thing they'll ask is if you're Hispanic or Latino, and that's mainly because they want to know how to speak to you, right? They want to know if you speak Spanish or what language you speak so they know how to speak to you. Those are ethnicities. They are not races. In fact, I would encourage you to look at the difference when you do go look in that textbook. Look at the difference between race, ethnicity, and nationality. They are 3 very different things. Race is how we are seen by other people, our phenotype, what we look like. Ethnicity is our lineage, what we're made up of, what we got inside of us, I guess, if you want to call it that, and then nationality is where you come from, what's on your birth certificate. American.
Let's say I immigrate. Let's say I cross the border illegally. What would I be considered?
No, Christian, no. That is for a classroom. We're done with this right here. We are not going to entertain this anymore. There's other people. And
I'm
this
just
is stuff,
curious.
Christian, I'm speaking. Christian, I'm speaking. There's other people. We're going to move on. This is work that you can do on your own. We're not going to play hypotheticals. So what if I'm from here and what if I'm from there? And how about if there's 18 people working at my company and 4 are black and 2 are white? We're not doing this, Christian. We're moving on.
And so when we look at the FAFSA, I will say this, and then I'd like to go to SMG. There is a portion of the FAFSA that asks you very specifically, the question on top is this student of Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin? And the questions are no, not Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origins, yes. And then you go through it. Yes, Puerto Rican. Yes, Cuban. Yes, another Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin. So you may be confusing those questions with the other portion that is very specific on race. So there are some questions like that, but I just think you need to do some research. And just as Grammy said, I'd like to move on. So SMG, welcome to the panel. What are your thoughts on the topic?
Hey, real quick, I just want to let you know that I'm 22 from California.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Sure thing. Another thing I ask real quick before I begin is that nobody talks over me.
So no, you
I've
don't.
given you
One
guys
thing,
plenty of time.
SMG, that's not the way this works. Because I mod my space very heavily, I will stop you if you say something egregious. There is no right to comfort on this panel. If you are uncomfortable with that, if you don't like my rules, you are free to leave.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just talking about.
I will speak over you as I choose. So please,
Okay, perfect.
what are your thoughts on the background?
Can I bring up the topic of other ethnicities not being racist?
No, you can
Is that okay?
address the background. I just told Christian we're not doing that anymore. Address the background. You as a white man, racism and white supremacy are the biggest obstacles
I'm
keeping
not
you.
white.
Okay, then why are you up here for a conversation that's supposed to be a white person educating other white people?
Because I'm not just white.
So what are your thoughts on white supremacy and racism?
I think white supremacy isn't inherently in everybody. I think everyone has their own free will, right? You can't just group people together like, oh, all white people think this way, all Mexican people think this way, all Asian people think this way.
Gosh,
That is
yeah, you never said that.
wrong.
That's wild. I don't know where you got that from.
No, I'm just stating.
So white supremacy. So let's talk about white supremacy. What do you think about white supremacy?
I think it's definitely wrong.
Absolutely. So I assume you would stand against its ideologies?
Yeah, absolutely. As anybody, I think, would in their right mind.
You would be amazed how many people come up on this panel and I have to challenge them to say that they denounce white supremacy and they will actually tell me no, that they uphold it. If you go to my videos and anybody in the chat, if you want to go to my videos and see what racism looks like, there's a gentleman named Systemically White who very frequents my space and dumps white supremacist talking points. He's been on my panel and claims card-carrying membership with one of these groups. Now, I agree with you. I do not believe that all members of the white race are card-carrying members. However, the ideologies have been taught to us within media, within every institution within the United States, that at all of their foundations. And so if you stand against those things, are you opposed to learning what they are so then you can again more knowledgeably stand against those things?
Me personally, no. I believe it's going to take a lot of time out of my personal life and take a lot of enjoyment out of my life to combat said things. I'd rather live my life peacefully and just let others do what they feel free to do.
So because it doesn't affect you, you're comfortable with seeing Americans lynched on live TV, but because it doesn't affect you or your community, you're okay with that?
I'd watch that word.
I never said I was okay with it. I just said I'd rather
you
not
obviously
combat
are.
it.
You don't want to engage with anything that's happening. You're comfortable with allowing it to happen because you don't want to live your life in a way that stands against that.
No, I'm comfortable with making the choice to not personally combat it because I'm one person. And I don't want to take that much time out of my life to put forth for that reason.
So
That's just a personal choice.
You have no empathy for, then why are you up here to talk about the subject when you don't care about it?
I was originally coming up for what Grammy said, but you guys are clearly past that.
Okay, perfect. So you can mute up, please, real quick. I'd like to go to Evan.
Sounds good.
Hey, Evan, what are your thoughts on the background?
Well, listening to everyone talk, I guess I just had a general question. My wife is Native American, Winnebago tribe, and also Hispanic. And her brother, my brother-in-law, came to my house and denounced white people in front of my children. And I was wondering what the appropriate response to that you think should be.
So gosh, I would actually leave him alone.
Yeah,
If that's his choice. You know, I mean, we have unfortunately, especially when we look at indigenous people in the United States. I mean, you do, let me make sure you do understand what we've done, what the United States has done to indigenous people and continues to do to them today, correct?
Oh, absolutely. But
So
also,
why are you surprised?
Yeah.
Why are you surprised that he would denounce white people?
well, because he specifically denounced white people that have been nothing but kind to him, which is perplexing.
So
Is that because did he say all white people? Is that why he specifically denounced?
He said all white people except, and then he started a very short list of about 2 or 3 people.
Well, that's
Because
great.
I would say all white people, except those who are actively trying to learn to be anti-racist. But I mean, you've got to understand where he's coming from. Like, if he doesn't want to trust white people, he has every single reason in the world to not trust white people. Every single reason, whether they've been nice to him or not. I've had people be nice to me before for years at a time and then turn around and stab me in the back. They were my family members. So if he just doesn't want to like regular white people, he just has every reason he can just do that.
Right.
And you all should accept that.
Let's look at some.
So even
So let me
so
give you
even
some, hold on just a second, Evan, because I'd like to give you some statistics of what we're talking about. So in the United States, right, when we look at the crime statistics, table 43 for all of those that know what that is, when we look at who has committed the most violent crimes, who commits the most harm against children, the most harm against women, what is it with the indigenous women? It's that, I believe it's the MMIW. When we look at those things, it is predominantly per capita white men that commit those crimes. And so for anybody in a marginalized group to say, I don't trust white people because of whatever their reason is, absolutely. My response to you would be, why weren't you on the list of people he trusts? Because
I was.
you know, so then
I was.
then fine. If you're on that list, then great for
Then
you.
what are you worried about?
Yeah.
I'm worried about perpetuating a hate that might not apply to my children when they're in earshot.
Well, then that's your
But you
choice.
should talk to your kids about this stuff, and your kids should understand why he feels that way.
Right, but
And I'm
shouldn't
not here to tell you how to raise your children at all. You can always remove your children from his
well he
life.
was a guest in my home.
I understand that he is, and you're allowing that. If there is a concern, you
So
should
it's okay that I don't allow him to be a guest in my home, or is that perpetuating racism?
listen.
This
No.
is why he doesn't trust you. Hang on one second, Silver. This right here is why he doesn't trust white people.
I just asked a
And I'm
question.
surprised he put you on the list of people he trusted, you know, considering how you're behaving right now. Tony, get this dog, please. Considering how you're behaving right now. And if you were on the list of people that he trusted, when he sees this video, you probably won't be. Because what you're doing is showing him and every other indigenous person that you don't get it.
That's
That
why
you're
I'm
not
asking
safe
questions.
and that you do not get it. You are not a safe person. You do not understand. You do not want to understand. All you've done here is argue pretty much. Argue everything everybody's
That's
told you.
absolutely
You
blasphemy
ask
when
a
you put somebody on the
question.
spot
You
like
ask
that. This
a-
man is definitely a
He
good
asked,
person.
he
I mean,
put
you
us
look
on
like
the
you smell
spot,
like it.
bro.
I just asked
He put us
questions.
on the
Let's
spot.
not
Literally,
get my
Evan's a
life taken
beautiful
down.
human being.
Hello.
Let's not get my live taken down. I'm going to ask
in
you
the
to
chat.
mute. Please, everybody, if we can mute up real quick. I'd like to speak to the chat to make sure that my live doesn't get taken down. I have asked you to stay muted when you are muted, and you cannot abide by those rules. This is my space. I've worked very hard to build my little 3,000 followers here, and I'm not going to allow you to do that. Thank you for the F1s in the comments. We are 100% here to abide by TikTok terms and services, to not be egregious, to not act in any way that goes against those terms and services. Evan, it sounds like this is a conversation that you need to have with him. I understand it is not racism what he is doing, nor would it be racism if you decided you didn't want him in your home. But what I'm going to tell you is that is not a conversation for us to get into, because I am not here to talk to you about how to parent your children. That is not what this live is about. This live is about dismantling white supremacist ideologies within the United States. All right. We are, as white people, we are not born racist. Absolutely not. I see that running amok in the comments. It's kind of fucking crazy. Nobody is born in nobody inherits it. All right. But we are inherent because we are born into a system that upholds the white supremacist ideology. If you're curious about what that ideology is, if you do not understand what it is, I would happily with sources tell you what that is. Okay, I can give you systemic examples in any you pick. You know, we can do medical, we can do the criminal justice system, we can do the social system, we can do dang near any system within the United States, and I can give you laws on the books today that are harmful for marginalized communities. We can even talk about military service. We can talk about those that served in the military. We can talk about our Indigenous members that have joined the military who do not have access to VA care because the United States will not build them close to reservations. We do have legislation being pushed forward, hopefully to do that, so that we can get our Indigenous service members the care that they are veterans, the care that is for them, that they have earned the right to. So we can talk about all of those things, but please, I no longer want to speak about your family. And SMG, if you cannot abide by my rules on this panel, please just excuse yourself. I ask that everybody here grab their intestinal fortitude by the bootstraps and yoink it up. All right, Evan, what would you like to say?
Oh, I understand what you're saying. I just, I am white, and I do happen to be proud of my heritage. I'm of Scandinavian descent, and pride myself on my Viking heritage, and that's been called into question by people of color as well. And I wonder how.
And maybe let me explain that to you a little bit, because when we talk about culture and we talk about what our heritage is, and I am very glad that you're proud of your heritage, as we should be. I am very proud that I am Irish and Scottish. I have reinvested into doing like the DNA test and really enjoying that. I really like learning that a lot of the dishes that I learned how to cook from my grandma come from that background, that I still have that. But when we're talking about white culture is not any of those things. White culture very specifically is colonizer culture. All right. And so it's colonizer, it's white supremacist ideology. It's the fact that the white supremacists, and this is what they believe in something called race realism. Race realism is the idea that race is biological, but we know that's not true. We know that, just as Evan said, he's Scandinavian, I'm Irish, we're different things, but we're both still white. So we know that it is not biological. When I know they're up here, I see the comments, they're up here gifting each other for encouragement. And I love it. I think it's great because when you gift people on my panel, it does boost me in the algorithm as well. That engagement is very heavily, I appreciate that. It only amounts to about $1, but it actually pushes me out to the For You page. And I'm thankful for that. I appreciate all the gifts to myself and to any panel members. And I encourage that engagement. I encourage the comments. We don't block people here unless they do say egregious slurs or anything along those lines. So
That's crazy because I was just muted for 5 minutes by Grammy for no reason.
So
You were muted, so you couldn't gift anymore. And I'll mute you whenever I want to. If you don't like it, you can leave.
So
Hi, Grammy.
it really does sound like you're struggling. I'm going to ask again that you not unmute. This is my space. If you don't like it, please see your way out. I'm asking for respect. I have not
appreciate
been
your
okay. Absolutely. Goodbye. Thank you. No need to announce your departure. You can just go on out. Go on out. Christian, you can as well. Please feel free to leave if you cannot respect my space. I absolutely appreciate that.
I was going to say thank you for your time.
No, I don't care. I don't need your thank you. I don't need anything.
Okay, you're a bitch.
For you just to leave.
Yeah, you're a bitch.
You can
Fuck you,
just
bitch.
leave. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate the engagement. I appreciate your time and your fragility. Your fragility is welcome in my space. You are here respectfully. Let that out. Be who you are. I will meet you where you are. I am here for that entire conversation. For my chat, because he did say something egregious and used bad words, I'd like to let TikTok know that we do not support that on my platform. So if I can get maybe just another round of some F1s, maybe a quick solid minute of some power tapping, I would greatly appreciate you guys. And in the comments, I see you guys. I see my mods working hard. I see all of you engaging down there, and I'm so thankful. I believe that we only have our energy and our time to give. Those are our resources that belong to us, and anybody that shares those with me, I am thankful for. So Evan, kind of back to what race realism is. When we talk about race realism, it is the ideology that, like I said, race is biological. And within that, because of the way we treated the Black community, they cannot have, it believes that they cannot have a higher intellect than the white community as a whole. Now, does that mean there won't be one-offs? Absolutely not. There always will be. There will be exceptional members of every race, no matter what. But the ideology is that the Black community cannot have a higher intellect than the white community, and the white community cannot have a higher intellect than the Asian community. When we look at what this looks like, it is why you hear a lot of things that the Asian community is considered the model minority. Why can't everybody be like the Asians, the Asian people, the Asian community? Because they have a higher intellect, they are higher financial, things like that. The other pieces, and I see you waiting to unmute for me to stop talking. I would really appreciate, because of the egregious engagement before you, that you wait till I say, please go ahead and unmute if you don't mind. I appreciate that so much. The other piece of that, when we look at that biological piece into the Black community, it is the ideology that they can take harder hits, that they are more animalistic in nature, that they are more aggressive in nature, what is the other couple of tougher skin, can take more pain, things like that. We see that play out kind of very recently in the news when the NFL came out and admitted to actually practicing medical racism against its players, with the idea that they thought that Black men, Black players, could take harder hits on the head, could take more damage than the white players could. And what that looks like is they would get less medical care or different medical care based on that wrong ideology, because we understand that race realism is nothing more than medical and scientific racism. Okay, Evan, please go ahead and unmute and we can re-engage in the conversation.
What am I supposed to tell my children who are half white and half indigenous Mexican when people call them whitewashed or coconuts?
I know.
You need to talk to your indigenous family members and your about that. That's not a conversation for up here. There's a very clear background, Evan. Stop.
So Evan, as I said earlier, I cannot tell you how to parent your children, nor would I ever. I think it's weird to ask a white woman what you should do, considering, I am the birther of the next generation of whiteness that will be the ones to continue on if I don't stop it, this type of behavior. So please don't ask me for parenting advice. I don't know what you need to tell your children. But as Grammy said, it is probably a good idea for you to speak into your wife's indigenous family, their heritage, and ask those questions.
No, I'm not asking.
Clear. I want to be clear, Evan, so that you understand. Your kids are going to be one or the other. They're not going to be seen as both. Society isn't going to look at them and see a person that is part indigenous and part white. They're either going to see a white person or a not white person.
And Grammy, I don't want to speak to him about his children anymore, because again, I know you said that you weren't speaking about your children, but you literally just asked us, what do I tell my children? So I cannot help you in what to tell your children. If you want to know what to tell your children, please go ask their family on their mother's side, it sounds like.
Yes, that's whose help you need.
Engage with what I told you about race realism?
Yeah, more of a general thing, I guess. It's just, the way you look, you're not accepted by those people, and the way you might act, you're not accepted by those people, and it's just a tough thing.
If you want to talk, if you want to send me a message, I'll gladly talk to you a little bit off of the live.
Yeah.
And I can send you some people that you should follow that I think would be good people for you to follow that could maybe help you with a little bit of this, but this live is not the place for it.
No.
All right. It just feels inherently racist when my family members do.
It's not. Trust me when I tell you, it's not. No one can be racist to white people.
I'd like him to finish that comment. Go ahead and say it again. You feel what?
I feel that it's inherently racist that I have family members that won't accept my children because they are half white.
Okay, so what you feel versus what reality is are going to be two different things. And when we look at the white supremacist ideology, it very heavily backs up what you just said, that your feelings, the American exceptionalism, your opinion, all of those things matter more than what the facts are. And so while we're talking about race realism, and talking about this, it sounds like your children, because it sounds like those were your children in the background right there. Your children have been on this earth for at least a few years. And the fact that you haven't gone to their family to have this conversation kind of boggles my mind, that this is, because I would assume this isn't the first place you've come to have this conversation.
No, we've had this conversation, and overwhelmingly my wife's family backs up our feelings about things that, other family members have said to us. I just am struggling to understand how that's not perpetuating hate to just, choose to not like somebody because of their heritage.
When we're talking about hate, absolutely, that could be hate.
Well, he said he doesn't like white people, so that is hate.
Listen, but it's not racism. Okay? Hatred is not racism. Those are two separate things. And when we look at the white supremacist ideology, when you actually speak to card-carrying members of these organizations, which I don't believe you are, absolutely not. I don't believe anybody that we've had on our panel this evening is a card-carrying member. But when you ask one of them, I think it would shock you to know that they don't believe that they are racist because they do not hate Black people. Okay? They believe that race realism is just the way life is, and that the Black community must accept that they are less than. They do not hate. In fact, there are quite a few white supremacist card-carrying members that are married to Black women. Okay. We also see members of some of these groups from different ethnicities. All right. So when we look at hate versus racism, when we look at hate versus the systemic problem within America, those are two separate things. Can absolutely, I think he hates you. I think that your brother-in-law hates, well, not you specifically, but the white people that he put on there. He hates them. And if you want to help him deconstruct that hate, that's a different conversation. And that's also something that I cannot help you with because I am not Indigenous to know. I can only speak to you from the place of a white woman. Okay. And so I cannot answer any of those questions. But if you want to understand white supremacy and racism, I can absolutely help you there.
Okay. Well,
If I could really quick,
yeah.
Evan, I think it's important for you to understand two things. One, a lot of times you hear people say white people, all white people, or white people this, white people that. What they're really talking about is the construct of whiteness, right? There's a difference between white people and the construct of whiteness, right? That's number one. Number two, your kids, if they have Indigenous ancestry, right, are likely going to be accepted by their Indigenous family because they have Indigenous ancestry, right? So they're not most likely talking about your kids. And I'm sure that he didn't put your kids on that list of people, did he?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, well then maybe he is talking about your kids. I don't know how old I don't know what that situation is, but whatever.
I think that might be a little bit disingenuous because you said that he also lives in your home.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't live in my home. He's been a visitor in my home.
Oh, so he's a visitor in your home. So you allow a man that said they hate your children into your home. So that's a you problem, sir. I can't help you with that.
No.
I'd like you to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, this is weird, and I think he's done, in my opinion.
So Evan, stay there. We have two new guests on the panel. I'd like to start with Vince and then go to JR. And before we do that, Evan, I do see you unmuting. Please mute yourself.
Well, that's not what happened. He said negative things about my...
You're struggling right now. You're in a very emotional place, and my live panel is not the place for that trauma dump. Wherever you need to go to find your healing, please go there now. Okay, if you stay on my panel, please abide by the rules that I have set forth for my space. I appreciate that. My rules are very simple. I will not allow white supremacist talking points on my panel, so I will cut you off if you do use them. I also ask that you leave your cameras off because we do have people that show egregious pictures on my live to try to get it shut down. They also unmute and say egregious things. And I'm not just talking about calling me the B word because I could really care less about that. I'm talking about actual slurs. They also play in the background songs with nothing but those racial slurs. So I very heavily mod my space because of that, because of the nature of this conversation. But I do want to meet everybody where they are and have a calm conversation if you'll allow it. So Vince, with that being said, what are your thoughts on the topic?
So I would just like to come in and say that I am from Philadelphia. Like I live in Philadelphia and like I'm a university student, and the school that I go to, like it is very heavily populated with Black people. And I just wanted to say that not like one of those people that I've like become friends with or just people in general, like have ever told me that like I'm inherently racist or like that I'm racist. Like I just don't understand like where this ideology is coming from.
So
Address background.
yeah, so and that's a question. You know, if he is friends with, you know, a community and they've not talked about it, and that's fine. When we look at the white supremacist ideology, there's typically a reason why Black people do not bring this up to white people, because regardless of how safe you are as a friend, you still potentially can be harmful to their community. And what I mean by that, we feel free to call the police when certain situations happen, because we believe that the police are our protectors. But we know, Grammy, you're going to have to help me remember the name. I think you jumped away. I'll wait till you, oh, there you are. The young child who was unalived by the police when his mother called the cops. Is it Miller? Gosh, I'll find it.
It is Miller. The last name's Miller. Crap, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Hang on, let me go look so I don't spend all that time trying to think about it. Hang on. I'll be right
But
back.
basically, I'll tell you the story. It was a Black woman who was being assaulted by a man, and she called and whispered into the phone that she needed help. When the police got there, the man was still there, and he left by where he was standing by the woman and went into the child's room and picked up the child and held a knife to it. The officer then used his pew-pew to delete the offender, but he deleted the child first. So when we look at situations like this, we know that we are not always safe places for the Black community, regardless of how close in friendship we are. So there are lots of things that we're not going to be privy to. But I would maybe encourage you, Vince, to Terrell, thank you, Grammy, Terrell Miller. I would encourage you, if that's a concern and you would like to understand more what this perspective is, one of the things that I do here on TikTok is I will go and just sit in the comments in other community spaces and just listen to what they have to say and understand where that is. And when we talk about inherently, what we mean by that is that like I said, every foundation in this country, not the foundation, the structure of, you know, all medical, all of those things include racism in it. And so inherently we are born into that system. So why we do not hate or want to cause harm to, sometimes we still believe these white supremacist ideologies. One of those ideologies is like 1350. I'm sure you've heard that before and know what that means, but it's absolutely untrue. And so basically this live is to debunk those things for the white supremacist ideologies that people have, and to discuss what the groups are actually doing in the United States, and kind of what we can do to deconstruct some of those things. Do you have any questions on that, Vince?
I don't have any questions on like anything that you said. Like I do kind of like I was taking in like everything you said, and like I'm like okay with that, but also like I do have like another question, and it's like the fact that like I myself may not like be like a racist, or like I like obviously tried very hard not to be a racist, obviously, but like why like when people say that like we're like inherently racist, like when we're trying to like not be racist, like why are we still considered racist in some way? Like it
That's a
doesn't
great
make
question.
sense.
Great question. Absolutely great question. So when we look at that, it's because we have basically taken in media, we have taken in our education, the books that we're taught from are very heavily, we call it whitewashing of history when we look at those things. So every form of whatever that we take in information is based on these ideologies. Currently, there's movement to change that, and we do see a lot of pushback against that movement. But that's what we mean when we mean inherently. So for the rest of my life, I know that I'm going to have to actively work to be anti-racist, to not consume this information and allow it to perpetuate any type of stereotype or ideology. And I guess another way to talk about what the white supremacist ideology is to talk about some of these stereotypes, because a lot of times it stereotypes how their ideology plays out in these systems. And so we have to work, and if you are actively trying to be the best you can be and not be racist, you know, there's it's kind of like you can move into becoming anti-racist, which means that you can then stand as not necessarily an ally, because I'm not here to say what the Black community needs from us in any way, shape, or form, but then it can help you stand against some of these ideologies that are perpetuated within the white supremacist culture. Go ahead, Vince.
Oh, okay.